Why do you always seem to attract the same type of person? Why do your relationships follow the same painful pattern, almost as if you're stuck in a loop you just can't break free from? It's not bad luck. It's not a coincidence. There's a profound reason that Eckhart Tolle reveals, and it's going to completely change how you see love. If you've ever walked away from a relationship saying, "Never again will I go through that," and then found yourself in the exact same situation with someone else, this video is for you. Because today, I'm going to show you why this happens, and more importantly, how to finally break free from this cycle. But before we continue, I need to tell you something very important. You are not alone in this. Millions of people around the world ask themselves the same question every day. Why do I always attract partners who don't value me? Why do I always end up with people who hurt me in the same way? Why does it feel like I change the person, but the story always repeats itself? Yes, and this confusion, this feeling that something is fundamentally wrong with you, is exactly what keeps the pattern repeating. But today, that's going to start to change. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to understand something about yourself that you may have never realized before. Eckhart Tolle spent years studying the unconscious patterns that control our choices in love. He observed thousands of relationships and noticed something disturbing. The same dynamics repeated, the same stories retold, the same dramas played out, with different characters. And what he discovered explains why intelligent, well-intentioned people, with generous hearts and beautiful dreams, repeatedly end up in relationships that destroy them from the inside. The answer isn't where you think it is. Most people think the problem is out there, in others, in bad luck. If I find the right person, everything will be different. If I choose better next time, I'll finally be happy. If I just wait a little longer, the perfect person will appear. But Tolle reveals something revolutionary. As long as you look for the solution out there, in others, the pattern will continue. Because the pattern isn't in the people you attract, the pattern is in you, or rather, in a part of you that you don't even know exists, a part that operates in the shadows of your consciousness, making decisions for you without you even realizing it. And this is where one of Tolle's most important and revolutionary concepts comes in, the pain body. Before I explain what that is, let me ask you a question. Have you ever met someone and felt an instant, overwhelming connection? That feeling that you already knew the person, that they understood you like no one ever has, that you finally found your soulmate? Now think, how many times did that instant connection lead to a healthy, lasting relationship? And how many times did it lead to just another cycle of suffering? If you're being honest, you'll realize that many times that the initial intensity was a warning sign, not true love. The pain body explains why. The pain body is like an emotional entity that lives inside you. It formed throughout your entire life, layer by layer, from all the emotional pain you experienced but never fully processed. Every time you were rejected as a child, every time you felt abandoned by someone who was supposed to protect you, every time someone you loved deeply disappointed you, every time you weren't seen, validated, or embraced the way you needed to be. A little bit of that pain got stored inside you, like an invisible scar on your soul. And over time, this accumulated pain created a kind of pattern, an unconscious programming, an automatic way of relating to the world that you don't even realize you're following. And here's the most important part to understand, the part that changes everything. The pain body doesn't want you to be happy. It wants to be fed. It needs drama, conflict, suffering to continue existing. It sounds crazy. I know. Why would a part of you want you to suffer? But think about it. The pain body feeds on negative emotions, and the pain it knows and the pain it expects is the only thing that keeps it alive. And that's why, unconsciously, you attract people who will activate that pain, not because you're masochistic, not because you like to suffer, not because there's something wrong with you, but because that unconscious part of you recognizes something familiar in those people. When you meet someone who has the potential to hurt you in the same way you were hurt in the past, your pain body wakes up. It recognizes the opportunity to be fed. And what do you feel in that moment? What does your brain interpret it as? Attraction, chemistry, deep connection, that magical feeling that you've known the person for a long time, maybe from another life. But what people call love at first sight is often just your pain body recognizing the pain body of another person. It's a meeting of two pains that are searching for each other, two open wounds that are magnetically drawn together. Let me give you a practical example that will make this clearer. Imagine a young woman who grew up with an emotionally unavailable father, a father who never paid attention, who was always too busy, too distracted, too distant, who never validated her feelings, who never told her she was special, who never made her feel important. This child grew up with a wound in her heart, a wound that says, "I'm not important enough to be loved. I'm not worthy of attention. Something about me is inadequate." She doesn't know she has this wound. It's invisible, but it's there, guiding her choices. Years later, this girl is now an adult woman. She goes to a party. At the party, there are 20 men. 19 of them are attentive, present, available, genuinely interested in her. One of them is distant, busy, hard to reach, emotionally unavailable. Guess who this woman is going to feel most attracted to? The distant man, the familiar pattern. Not because she consciously wants to suffer, not because she's dumb or has low self-esteem, but because her pain body recognizes that energy. It feels like love, because it feels familiar, and she's going to spend her energy, her time, her heart, trying to win the attention of this man, because unconsciously, she's trying to heal the wound from the past. If I can get him to love me, I'll prove that I'm worthy of love. But it doesn't work that way, and this is the first great awakening that Tolle offers us. Familiarity doesn't mean it's good for you, it just means it's known. And your brain has been programmed for millions of years of evolution to seek the known, the familiar, even when the known is painful. Because to the primitive brain, the known is safe, the unknown is dangerous, so it pushes you in the direction of what you already know, even if it's destroying you. But that's not the most important thing. What comes next is going to change everything. Tolle explains that until you become aware of your pain body, it will control your choices. You'll keep attracting the same people, repeating the same patterns, living the same story with different faces, decade after decade. You can move to a new city, get a makeover, change jobs, go to therapy, read every self-help book in the world. But if the pain body is in command, nothing will truly change. And the scariest thing of all? You'll think you're making free choices. You'll think you're following your heart. You'll think that this time it's different, that this person is special, but in reality, you're following your pain. This explains why so many intelligent people make choices that seem so obvious from the outside. Why did she go back to him if he treated her so badly? Why does he stay with her if she clearly doesn't value him? Why do they accept being treated like that? Because it's not a rational choice, it's the pain body in command, and it's much stronger than logic. Now, if you're listening to this and recognizing yourself in these words, take a deep breath. It's not your fault. You didn't know. No one taught you this in school. No one warned you that your pain could sabotage your love choices. And the good news, the news that changes everything, is that from the moment you become aware of this mechanism, it starts to lose power over you. Tolle says something profound that I want you to burn into your heart. The pain body can only survive in unconsciousness. The moment you bring the light of consciousness to it, it begins to dissolve. It's like a vampire that dies in the sunlight. The pain body needs darkness, unconsciousness, autopilot to function. When you turn on the light of awareness, it loses strength. Let me explain how this works in practice. Next time you meet someone and feel that intense, instant attraction, that overwhelming chemistry, that feeling that it's destiny, stop. I'm not saying ignore the feeling. I'm not saying repress it. I'm saying observe it. Look at it with curiosity instead of blindly surrendering to it. Ask yourself, why am I so attracted to this person? What about them seems familiar? Does this familiarity come from a healthy place or from an old wound? Do they remind me of someone from my past? Does it trigger some pain that I carry? This simple question, asked with sincerity, can change the entire course of your love life. Because when you stop reacting automatically and start observing, you take the pain body out of the driver's seat and put your consciousness in its place. And that is the beginning of true freedom. Remember when I talked about the young woman who grew up with an unavailable father? Well, if that young woman becomes aware of her pattern, something magical happens. Next time she meets a distant, emotionally unavailable man and feels that overwhelming attraction, she'll be able to perceive, wait a minute. I know what's happening here. This isn't love. This is my wound wanting to be reopened. This is my pain body seeking fuel. And that perception changes everything. Now she has a real choice. Before, she was on autopilot, being guided by forces she didn't understand. Now, she's awake, conscious, in command. And here is where most people stop. But if you stick with me, you'll understand why some relationships seem so incredibly intense at the beginning, and then become so devastatingly destructive. Tolle explains that when two pain bodies meet, when two people with unhealed pains are attracted to each other, there's an initial explosion of intensity. It seems like overwhelming passion. It seems like you've finally found your soulmate. It seems like all your searches have come to an end, but in reality, it's two pains recognizing each other. And pains need fuel to continue existing. That's why after the honeymoon phase passes, when the novelty wears off and reality sets in, conflicts appear. Fights for no apparent reason, constant provocations, endless drama. And you ask yourself, what happened? Where did that love from the beginning go? Did I imagine it all? No, you didn't imagine it. But what you felt wasn't love. It was your pain bodies dancing together. And now that the dance has changed rhythm, now that the pain bodies are awake and hungry, the suffering begins. Have you ever been in a relationship where it seemed like your partner deliberately did things that irritated you, as if they knew exactly which button to push to set you off, as if they had a map of your wounds and stepped on them on purpose? That's not deliberate malice, that's their pain body activating yours. And vice versa, you do the same to them without realizing it. Two people with active pain bodies enter a vicious cycle. One provokes the other reacts. The reaction provokes more, and so on, in a downward spiral that seems to have no end. Tolle calls this a love-hate relationship. Moments of incredible intensity followed by moments of mutual destruction, euphoric highs followed by devastating lows, passionate reconciliations followed by increasingly worse fights. And many people confuse this emotional roller coaster with true love. They think that intensity means depth, that suffering proves it's real, that if it doesn't hurt, it's not real love. But that's not how it is. True love, or as Tolle describes it, is calm, it's present, it's peaceful. It doesn't need drama to exist. It doesn't need constant ups and downs to prove itself. It doesn't need suffering to have value. If your relationship feels like a roller coaster, that's not a sign of passion. It's a sign that two pain bodies are fighting for control. Using you two as puppets, before I show you how to resolve this once and for all, I need to tell you something even more important that Tolle discovered. There's another mechanism that explains why you repeat patterns, the role you unconsciously assume. Everyone who grows up in dysfunctional families, and let's be honest, almost all families have some level of dysfunction, develops a role, an identity, a character they've learned to play to survive. Some become the saviors. They're always trying to fix broken people, always attracting projects instead of partners, always believing that their love will be enough to change someone who doesn't want to change. Others become the victims, always attracting people who mistreat them. Always finding yourself in situations where you're devalued, always with a sob story ready to go. Others become the rebels, constantly in conflict with those they love, always testing boundaries, always provoking until the other person explodes or walks away. Still others become the invisible ones, always fading into the background in relationships, always letting the other person shine, always forgetting their own needs. These roles, they're like characters you learn to play since childhood. You play them so well, so naturally, that you don't even realize you're acting. You think it's who you are, but it's just a role. When you enter a relationship, you bring your role with you, and you magnetically attract people who complete your role. If you're the savior, you'll attract people who need to be saved, people with endless, never solved problems. If you're the victim, you'll attract people who victimize you, who confirm your story that the world is cruel. If you're the rebel, you'll attract controlling people who want to dominate you. And this is the cycle. This is the invisible prison. It doesn't matter how many times you switch partners. It doesn't matter how many relationships you end and begin. If you don't change the role you're playing, you'll continue attracting the same dynamics, but repeating the same story with different actors. It's not that you're hard to love. It's not that you don't deserve a good love. It's that you need a different kind of connection. A connection based on awareness, not on unconscious patterns. A connection between two awake people, not between two characters acting. And the good news is, you can change this, not overnight, not with a magic wand, but step by step, with awareness and practice. Let me show you how. The first step, and perhaps the most important, is recognizing your pattern. You need to stop playing blind to what's happening. Look at your past relationships with brutal honesty. What did they have in common? Not superficially, like appearance or profession. Deeply. What was the dynamic? What was the recurring theme? How did you feel in those relationships? Who did you become when you were with those people? Write this down. Be honest with yourself. Not to punish yourself. Not to blame yourself, but to know yourself. Knowledge is the first step to freedom. The second step is identifying your role. Are you the savior? The victim? To the rebel? The invisible one? What were you trying to prove or resolve in those relationships? What wound were you trying to heal through the other person? The third step is the most powerful of all. Observe without judging. Eckhart Tolle says something crucial here. Judgment and resistance are food for the pain body. When you judge yourself for making bad choices, you feed the pain. When you hate yourself for going back to that person, you give strength to what you're trying to overcome. Instead of judging yourself, simply observe. With curiosity. Like a scientist studying an interesting phenomenon. Ah, how interesting. I have a pattern of attracting emotionally unavailable people. How curious. I always end up in the role of savior. How revealing. This conscious observation, without judgment, without resistance, is what begins to dissolve the pattern. It's like bringing light to a dark basement. The things that lived in the shadows can no longer hide. The fourth step is practicing presence in your current relationships. If you're in a relationship now, start noticing when your pain body is active, when you feel that need to provoke, to criticize, to create drama. When you realize you're pushing the other person's buttons on purpose, when you feel like you can't stop reacting, and instead of acting on that impulse, just observe. Feel the energy of the pain body rising in you without giving it an outlet. Stay present with the sensation without transforming it into action. This isn't easy. I know it's not. In the beginning, you'll fail many times. You'll react automatically before you realize what you're doing. But each time you manage to observe without reacting, you weaken the pattern. You take back a little bit of control. Going back to what I said at the beginning about familiarity and attraction, when you start to become aware of your patterns, something strange and wonderful happens. People who once attracted you intensely, those who made your heart race and your palms sweat, start to seem less interesting. You look at them and think, I know what's happening here. This is my pain body, not my heart. And people who you previously ignored, those who were kind, present, available, but who you found boring, start to catch your attention in a new way. This happens because you're no longer seeking the painful familiar. You're seeking the healthy. And in the beginning, I need to be honest with you, the healthy can seem boring, no drama, no intensity, too calm, too predictable. That's because you were confusing drama with passion, conflict with connection, suffering with depth. But over time, you'll discover that true love isn't a roller coaster that leaves you exhausted and anxious. It's a peaceful walk alongside someone who makes you feel at peace. It's presence. It's security. It's being able to be yourself without fear. If you're wondering if you can do this, if it's possible after so many years of repeating the same patterns, let me tell you something that Tolle emphasizes strongly. You don't need to get rid of the pain body. You don't need to make it disappear completely. You just need to become aware of it. The moment you can say to yourself clearly, "I'm feeling my pain body now." In that exact moment, you're no longer completely identified with it. You've already taken a step back. You're already observing instead of being dragged along and that space, that small space between you and the pain body, is where freedom lives. It's where you can choose. It's where you stop being a puppet and become the master of your love life. Now, if this video helped you understand why your relationships follow the same pattern, if it illuminated something that was hidden in the shadows of your consciousness, and if you want me to continue bringing this kind of content that truly transforms, the super thanks is a way for you to say, "This made a difference for me." Every support helps me continue creating these videos that reach people around the world. Let me give you a final practice, something you can start using today. Every time you feel attracted to someone, before you act, before you give in to the feeling, ask yourself this simple but powerful question. Does this attraction come from a place of wholeness or from a place of lack? If you're searching for someone to complete you, to fill a void you feel inside, to make you feel worthy of love, to prove that you're lovable, that's your pain body talking. That's the wound seeking to be healed by another person. And that never works, but if you feel whole on your own, if you've already found peace within yourself, and you want to share that wholeness with another person, that's true love wanting to be born. That's two complete beings choosing to walk side by side. The difference seems subtle, but it changes absolutely everything. Because real love isn't two incomplete people desperately trying to complete each other. It's not two needy people clinging to one another. It's not two pain bodies dancing their dance of suffering. True love is two whole individuals consciously choosing to share life, that feeling you had at the beginning of this video. That frustrating and confusing sensation of being trapped in a cycle you can't break. It makes sense now, doesn't it? The cycle was never about the wrong people crossing your path. It was never about bad luck in love. It was never about you not being good enough. It was about a part of you that was on autopilot, seeking the familiar, painful instead of the healthy, new. It was about an unconscious pattern that no one taught you to see. And now that you know this, now that light has been turned on in that dark basement of your mind, you'll never look at your relationships the same way again. The next time you meet someone, it will be different. You'll have consciousness. You'll have perspective. You'll have real choice. And that, my friend, is the greatest gift anyone can have in their love life, the ability to truly choose. Not react blindly. Choose with eyes wide open. Before you go, tell me in the comments, how many relationships did you have to go through before you realized the pattern was repeating? And what was that pattern? I read all the comments and respond to many of them. Your story might be exactly what someone needs to hear today. Someone who is going through the same thing you went through. Someone who feels alone on this journey. I'll see you in the next video.